Now, we've come at this from several different ways. We've hired big box directors that have lots of experience that have come in on the higher price range as far as salary. And we've started with, here's existing caregivers that have been with us. We know their character, we know they're dependable, we know they're consistent, but they don't really have very many of these 9 skills that I talked about. They have some foundation laid for them, but they have not mastered any of these things yet. And we've promoted those type of individuals to managers also. I have a better option than the dinky RAL. Let me show you how to create a luxury new construction mansion of an assisted living. When I started out in assisted living, nobody had a roadmap for how to build and operate a luxury assisted living. I'm here to document my journey as I grow my business and provide you tips and strategies for you to succeed. Welcome back to Assisted Living Investing with me, your host, Brett Schottkavis. I own and operate Platinum Resort Assisted Living and Memory Care in Georgetown, Texas. I consistently make $40,000 plus per month, and I work 2 to 4 hours a week, probably closer to 2. My wife, Laura, probably works about 4 hours a week. So I want to talk to you today about our managers because that is the sole reason why we have the results that we have. I have financial freedom through this vehicle. I have time freedom through this vehicle, and it is because of our management team. So I want to talk to you today about how to pay your managers. Who should you be looking for as far as experience, and what is a reasonable salary for them? So let's start with the quick answer and then we'll unpack from there. What does it look like? What's the range for a manager in assisted living? Well, when I look up Indeed and I look at my area, and I'm in Central Texas, I looked at Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and there's a kind of acceptable range here. On the lower side for a manager who has experience, it's about $60,000. And it can go up to about $100,000. Now, I'm usually not looking at the dinky RALs. I don't know what a 6-bed is paying their manager because I don't really think they are paying a manager. But when I am looking at the big smelly facilities, the 60 beds, the 100 beds, these are usually the posts that I see on job boards like Indeed, right? So 60 to 100 grand. And again, if you're going to be pushing near the top of that range, the 100,000, you are the executive director, right? It's you at the top, and you may be over 60 or 100 or 150 residents. It may be independent or memory care or assisted living. But you probably have a team below you, right? You have multiple types of managers. You have other directors below you as well. So if you are pushing 100K, it's because you are at the top. So really the distinction between 60 grand, 80 grand, 100 grand is the experience and the job duties. What experience and skill sets do these potential applicants have to be able to do this? And then what are the specific roles and duties that you want your manager to do? Because ultimately, if you are building a 16-bed memory care mansion like I am, and you're hiring a manager, that role and responsibilities will be drastically different than a big facility that is hiring a manager for activities. And their entire job duties revolves about just doing activities for 150 grandmas. So it's really important to determine what roles and responsibilities do you want your manager to have, and then consider their experience, and then let's bring that all into pay. So let's break this down today. Now let's start with your objective. If you are the owner, if you're looking to hire someone, the question you may have or your objective may be, what is the lowest price that I can pay to have a good manager? And I think that is entirely the wrong objective. So let me share with you what my objective is. I want to have the best assisted living in Georgetown. I want to give the absolute best care I can because my literal grandma is in my assisted living. I want to get very little calls from my management or my team. I want to have all the drama handled. I don't want to hear about any of the drama. And lastly, I want to choose to go in when I want. I don't want to have to go in every day or every time there's a problem having to go in. I want all of those things handled. Ultimately, I want to be the kind of owner that only works 2 to 4 hours a week on their business, growing their business, and not in their business. I don't want to do any of the day-to-day work. So if you have that objective, it is not about what's the lowest can I pay. Can I pay $50,000 or $55,000, right? That's irrelevant because I know I'm going to get the wrong result. If my result is I want to take back my time, I want financial freedom and time freedom, how much do I need to pay for a manager to get that result? So as you're considering what to pay, it really comes back to what are the roles, the responsibilities that your manager is going to do? And can they show you that they have the experience to be able to handle these roles and responsibilities? So there's 9 expectations, 9 roles and responsibilities that I have for my managers. Here's what they are. I want them to be able to handle all of the staffing operations, all of the resident operations, all of the family communication, all of the medication management, all of the hiring, training, HR, and firing of all the staff. I want them to be able to handle the kitchen, the chef, the menu, and the ordering. I want them to also be able to assist with the marketing and the networking in our city. I want them to be able to run all of the tours, to run our sales and our follow-up system for all our potential leads. And lastly, I want them to be able to manage the building maintenance. So if a manager candidate has all of this experience, they can do all of these roles and responsibilities, and they can prove to me that they can, then they're worth $100K to me easily. I'll pay more than that if they could do all of this, take all of this off my plate, and again, give me the objective of I want to be a 2 to 4 hour a week owner. But honestly, I don't think you're going to find someone who can do all 9 of those things as an expert. That's what your role as the owner is, growing to be able to do all of those things. And I can do all of those things. And therefore, I'm going to hire people most likely who cannot do all of those things, but I will train them in them. I will teach them. And I will allow for promotion, I will allow for raises, and I will usually not start at 100 grand, but I will start at a more reasonable salary of perhaps 60,000 to 70,000. And as they are growing, learning more, handling more responsibility, and becoming more of an expert on these things, I will continue to promote and give them raises, ultimately so they stay with me long term and I have a stable, consistent business. Now, we've come at this from several different ways. We've hired big box directors that have lots of experience that have come in on the higher price range as far as salary. And we've started with, here's existing caregivers that have been with us. We know their character, we know they're dependable, we know they're consistent, but they don't really have very many of these 9 skills that I talked about. They have some foundation laid for them, but they have not mastered any of these things yet. And we've promoted those type of individuals to managers also. So there's multiple ways you can go about this. And if you are going to start by promoting a quality caregiver who has the right character, but perhaps does not have the experience, then you may want to start in that 50,000 to 60,000 range. And then ultimately continue to teach them step by step, continue to add more responsibility to them, take more items off of your plate, and encourage them to own the responsibility and do that as you are continuing to give them pay raises. Now, a third type of manager that we've done is more of an assistant manager role. It may be a little transition period from caregiver to manager where you can actually find a quality caregiver and promote them, say, as a lead or maybe as an assistant manager, and maybe you keep them hourly, right? If you're paying $16 to $20 an hour for your caregiver, maybe you bump them by $5 an hour, and now they're $21 to $26 an hour. They are still hourly. Perhaps they're still working 40 hours a week, or perhaps they are half the time on the floor as a caregiver and they're working part-time as a lead or assistant manager to cover the days off of your current manager, and really having a full-time manager and a half manager and assistant manager, because ultimately I don't want to be the backup person. I want to have a backup manager for when I have to remove someone. And this ultimately brings me to what I love the most about what we do, and that's a 2-manager system. We have 2 full-time managers, right? I've had a period in our assisted living where we only had 1. We hired the big box director at a big salary to come in and run this, but there was no assistant manager. There was no second manager or backup person, right? Laura ended up being the backup person there, and that was not a strategy that we loved. So we transitioned from that, and ultimately we promoted 2 quality, dependable caregivers, brought them through the 9 tasks that we just talked through, added more role, more responsibility on their plate, promoted them along the way financially as well. And then we now have a full 2-manager system where every single day of the week, there is at least 1 manager there, and half the week, there's 2 managers there. So this puts me at my objective, right? I'm really coming at it from this perspective. How do I have the best care possible in my city? How do I not get any calls when there are drama? How do I not work any shifts in a blizzard or a snowstorm? In the worst case scenario, I don't want to go in, right? I want to choose to go in when it is a fun time, when there's activities, when I want to go and visit my family that's there, right? I want to choose to go in when I want. That's the whole point of me being an entrepreneur, to create this freedom for myself. So ultimately, I think the best way to do this is by having 2 full-time managers, and you can pay them along the schedule options that I talked through. But really, to do this, it really comes back to the model. What type of assisted living are you running, right? Because I have a luxury 16-bed model, and I push over $100,000 a month in income, which allows me to pay very strongly for 2 full-time managers. If you had a different model, if you were the convert a house model, you had 6 or 8 rooms, maybe they're private rooms, maybe they're shared, right? You're just not going to have an income reasonably for a manager. You may have 0 manager option, and you cannot do anything about that because the income is not there. If you have a 12 bed, a 14 bed, you may have money in the budget for a manager, right? But it may be a lower option as far as pay, as far as roles and responsibilities. You may still get those calls, right? You may still have to work a full-time job as the owner doing a lot of these things, right? I really think that you can only have this time freedom, 2 to 4 hours a week, by having the 2-manager system, or at least a 1.5, right? The full-time manager and an assistant for their days off. But I really want time freedom. That's ultimately my goal. I've been in lots of different real estate avenues, buying hundreds of houses, and have lots of cash flow in real estate. And there's so much drama in all these different things that this is the best path forward for me to scale and grow with this model, to allow me to pull my time back and still have the financial reward. So if you want to learn more about our model, what we do with the memory care mansions, how we build new construction for these luxury 16 beds, join me on our free foundations training. I go through 17 different modules explaining everything that I do as I build new construction, as I get the loans, as I set up the license, as I raise funds for these things, right? I'll show you all these things, and it's entirely free. Click on the link below to join our foundations training.